Hi, I'm Emily Masu, and this is going to be a tutorial on how to make banana bread using high altitude and low altitude recipes. I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks on using the high altitude. Sorry, I'm not made up. My hair's not done. I don't have makeup on. I pretty much rolled out of bed and decided that I was going to do this video. So yeah, follow along and hopefully we'll make some kick-ass banana bread. Okay, so this is my first baking video I'm going to do, and I'm not wearing any makeup. I pretty much just rolled out of bed, and I got some banana breads I have to make. So I'm going to go ahead and make those. Sorry about the sun streaming through the window. It's like really early in the morning. Well, not really. It's like 10 o'clock in Colorado. So we're in high altitude, so we're going to be doing some high altitude baking, which kind of involves a little bit of science. So let's get started. So what I went ahead and did was the recipe calls for 2 cups of flour. So we got our flour in the bowl. I went ahead and ran it through the sifter. The flour I buy is already sifted, but I like to double sift it. I think it has better results. So we got the flour, and next is the salt. So 2 teaspoons of salt and 2 teaspoons of baking soda. Last time I made my banana bread, the middles fell like really bad. And my theory is it's because there was too much baking soda in the mix. So this is what they look like. I don't know if you can see the hole in there, but it's pretty dramatic. So we're going to go ahead and try to recreate these. We're not using nuts because I don't have any, and they're really expensive. So those are our bananas. Let's go ahead and grab the salt and the baking soda. I know I'm not a very good cook because I should have had this out already, but I'm a freaking housewife. What do you expect? So there's those. I'm always putting stuff in the dishwasher when I know I'm going to need it. I hate it when I do that. So I'm just going to give these a quick rinse. Go ahead and dry them off. Normally, I sift the salt and the baking powder into the flour. This time I forgot to do that, so I didn't decide that I was going to record this until about 5 minutes ago. So I had already sifted my flour. So we're just going to go ahead and do the 1 teaspoon of salt into the flour. This is going to be a dry mixture in a separate bowl than what you're going to cream your sugar and your bananas in. 1 teaspoon of salt. And then it calls for 2 teaspoons of baking soda, but we're going to not put 2 teaspoons in it because it's high altitude, and baking soda will cause it to have more air. So I'm going to do a 1/4 teaspoon and see how that works. Go ahead and level it off, dump it right in there. And I'm going to give the mixture a quick stir just because I didn't sift the salt in with my flour. So I'm just going to stir it up real good, get it nice and mixed in there. Alright, just set that to the side for a little while. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is mix the butter and the sugar together. And you want to get it nice and fluffy. So let's go ahead and grab our butter. Oh, that's an empty box. Here it is, it's right here. Alright. So I already have 1 stick that I have been sitting out to soften. So we're going to go ahead and dump that into the bowl. And these have been softening, so make sure that your butter is at least room temperature so that you can get it to a nice fluffy texture with your sugar. Another thing that causes pastries and breads to fall when you're baking them is too much sugar. So we're going to limit our sugar a little bit today too. It calls for 2 cups. So I'm kind of going to, each time I measure, do a little bit less than 2 cups. The measurements for high altitude say that you should remove 1 tablespoon of sugar per cup that you put into your mixture. So I'm just going to kind of eye it here. Here's half a cup going into the butter. Then on my next one, I'm just going to leave a little bit room at the top. Just kind of eye it. So that's 1 cup. Here's the next. And again, just eye, what you think maybe 1 tablespoon would be. Or if you're not that advanced, go ahead and just stick your measuring spoon in there and scoop out a tablespoon. Well, it'll be 2 tablespoons since you're doing 2 cups of sugar. All right, so we're going to put the lid back on our sugar. And now we're going to mix the shit out of it until it gets all fluffy. Alright, so now our next step is stirring in the bananas and the eggs. Now, eggs are another thing that will cause your bread loaves to fall. So I like to put my eggs in last so they're not whipped as much, because the more you whip them, the more air gets into your batter and the more likely it is to fall. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my bananas. I actually got these on a sale at the grocery store because they're brown, so they're perfect. They're just overripe enough. We're going to go ahead and just plop them right into the bowl. If you have a stand mixer, I just go ahead and just let the stand mixer do all the work. Same for if you have a hand mixer or whatever you're using. I don't like to stir because it takes a lot of muscles to stir batter. So that's what stand mixers are for, in my opinion. So we're going to go ahead and just plop that in there. Toss your peels. It's nice to go ahead and, as you're working, try to put your stuff away because, number one, it'll save you in the long run because you won't be left with this gigantic mess after you get done cooking. Number two, your husband will be a lot happier if you have an awesome banana loaf to present to him and a clean kitchen. Oh, you'd be amazed how far that goes. Alright, so we're going to do the next banana. I split the tops of them, just a little slit to make them easier to peel, because these bananas are not fun to peel when they're all squishy. And I kind of pull off the little extra strings that are along the banana. Chuck it in the bowl. Now the recipe calls for 2 cups mashed bananas. I don't really measure them. You can if you want. I kind of just get like 2 small to medium sized bananas that are overripe because it's not going to hurt your batter if it's a little too banana-y. I don't think you can make it too banana-y. So mix it a little bit, and I always take off my mixer and kind of tap it against the side of the bowl. And then I set it down so I can take a spatula, which I also put in the dishwasher. Got my trusty Betty Crocker spatula here. Just rinse it off, dry it off. I like to use paper towels to dry it off. I would drop it on the ground. So I'm just going to wash it real good now. I like to use paper towels to dry off my utensils because I know where they've been. Because if I just rip a paper towel off of the paper towel holder, I know that's the only place this thing has been. It's not like a kitchen towel that lays around for days and you've wiped up who knows what with it. So I got my spatula here. And we're going to just go ahead and scrape the sides of the bowl to get it kind of loosened up so we can get a really good mix in there. And try to get it off the bottoms too, because a lot of the times these stand mixers miss stuff. So that's about what it should look like at this point. Kind of a gooey banana sugar butter mix. Alright? We're going to stick that back on the mixer. And if you're in a low altitude, go ahead and add your eggs with your bananas. Calls for 4 eggs, so you can just go ahead and toss those in there. Do them one at a time. Get them nice and beat in before you add the next one. So with the high altitude, we're going to go ahead and start adding our flour mixture to our butter mixture. And it calls for walnuts to add into the sugar mixture too, but if you don't have them or if they're too expensive, then don't worry about it. So we're going to go ahead and add this. And it's that simple. I mean, flour, dry ingredients in one bowl, butter, bananas, sugar, and the other bowl. And you could even add, I like to add a little bit of vanilla to mine. I think it gives it a really good flavor. I have these Lorian oils that I just got, and I love them. They're actually bakery emulsions. So I'm going to go ahead and add about a teaspoon of each of them into my batter. And I'm going to add them into the banana mixture before I pour in the flour. And this one that I have here is called Butter Vanilla. And I wish there was some kind of like smell-o-vision where you guys could smell this, because it smells amazing. It's it reminds me of those lip glosses I had as a kid. You know, they would have like vanilla flavored or icing flavored. It smells just like the icing one. Oh, it smells so good. Okay. So we got that going. I'm going to go ahead and dump some of our flour mixture into the bananas. About half of it. I did a little bit more than half, but you'll probably want to do just about half. And then go ahead and mix it on a really low speed so that your flour doesn't fly up everywhere. And as it gets incorporated into each other, you can speed it up a little bit and kind of get that fluffiness going. Now remember, for the high altitude bakers, we haven't added our eggs yet. This is the time for us to do that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and let it rest for a second. I still have half of my flour mixture in my bowl. Go ahead and leave that in the bowl, just set it down, and go grab your eggs. Recipe calls for 4 eggs, so 4 eggs we will use. I just crack them right into the mixture here. Make sure you don't get any shells in there. And I don't recommend breaking your eggs into the mixture while it's mixing, because I've done that before. And I ended up having to start over because I got a batter full of shells. So let's make sure the mixture's off before you add your eggs. And you can just go ahead and dump them all in there. Alright. My hands are rinsed so they're not all eggy. And now I'm going to add the rest of my flour mixture. I like my beater to not be in my mixture when I'm adding stuff, just because I don't know, it's just bulky and I can't get my bowl in there ever. So I'll set that down, go ahead and add the rest of my flour. Alright. And then we're going to mix the dickens out of this. I'm stopping to scrape the sides of my bowl. These mixers do a great job of mixing stuff, but they also do a really great job of getting stuff caked up on the side of your bowl, which is really annoying. So I'm going to go ahead and just scrape the sides of my bowl real good, make sure we don't have any flour clumps or anything like that in our bowl. Reattach the beater. And I actually found online last night. I can't wait to order it. It's a beater that has like the spatula sides, so as it beats, it also scrapes the sides of your bowl for you. Whoever came up with that's a genius. I can't wait to get one. But for now, I'm just stuck with the standard mixer. So mix it until it's fully incorporated. So I like to put chocolate chips in my batter. I found that a lot of people really like that. I also like to put poppy seeds in it. The poppy seeds kind of give it a sweet kind of nutty flavor. And if you don't have poppy seeds, don't worry about it. It's just something that I like to include in my recipe because I find myself modifying recipes a lot. And I also put chocolate chips, good old milk chocolate Nestle baking chips. You probably want to do about a cup. I'm not going to measure just because I don't want to. But, you know, if you like chocolate, put a shit ton of chocolate chips in it. You know, if you just kind of like chocolate, just put a little bit. It's up to you. So I'm going to put a bunch in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my poppy seeds. I'd say probably a tablespoon would be good. I don't like measuring. I think it takes time, and I don't like that. So. Alright. I need a little more chocolate chips. Good enough. Tap the mix on the side of the bowl with the mixer, and then go ahead and just scrape the sides. Make sure all of your chocolate chips are in your batter. Make sure you get them in there. Your oven needs to be preheated at 350. I should have told you that in the beginning. I'm actually, since I'm at a high altitude, I'm going to kick it up a couple notches. So I'm going to put mine on 375. That allows for when your bread rises, if you're in a high altitude, it tends to fall. So this will make it to where as soon as your bread rises, it's hot enough to where it bakes it at that rise temperature. So hopefully it shouldn't fall. We'll see though. We'll see what happens. So I got my pan right here. And they also say that in a high altitude, you should grease and flour your pans. But I suggest that whether you're at a high altitude or if you're living in Key West at sea level. I think that it's a really great idea just to make sure that nothing sticks. So I'm just using 100% canola oil. It's in a spray. I get it at Sam's Club. And then I'm just going to go ahead and dust a little flour in here. And then you just hit the sides of the pan to make it go where you want it to go. And you can evenly spread it. Do it over a sink or a trash can because it tends to get messy. And start out with a little pinch and then move on from there. Because you can always add more, but you can't always save all the flour that you use. And make sure you get them nice and coated, dusted really thoroughly, or you're going to have parts that stick and it's going to piss you off. My husband's calling. Okay, so we have our pan. It's fully dusted, alright? And then after you get it to that point, you want to just turn it over your sink and just beat it to get that excess flour out. Alright, so now we're going to fill our pan. In this recipe, you can make 2 loaves. And so I'm just going to separate my batter the best I can, half and half. Let's go ahead and do that. And this is what it should look like at this point. It's a nice batter. You got your chocolate chips in there. You got your poppy seeds in there. Alright? You're going to go ahead and just spoon it into the pan. And it'll be really thick. Don't worry about that. It's supposed to be super thick because it's bread. Alright, that looks like good for the first pan. Now, normally, I would say tap your pan on the counter to get any bubbles out. But in this situation, I found when you tap your pan on the counter and it has chocolate chips in it, the chocolate chips stick to the bottom of the pan and they're not spread throughout your batter, which is what you want. You want a couple chocolate chips in each bite. So I got that made, and I'm going to set it to the side and wait until it's ready to pop in the oven. Okay, so we made our banana loaves, and they came out awesome. Let me show you what they look like. One of the pans, I didn't fill quite halfway, so it came out a little bit smaller than the other one, but these are our loaves. They didn't fall, as you can see, so the methods worked with adding just a little bit of baking soda, a little bit less sugar, and adding your eggs at the end to make sure that you don't put too much air in your batter. So now we're going to move to making the icing for them. And the icing that I use for my banana breads is the same icing that I use for my cinnamon rolls. I just add a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg, and it makes an awesome, awesome icing. So for the icing, you're going to need a package of cream cheese, an 8-ounce package, a 4th cup of butter, 1 cup of powdered sugar, also known as confectioner's sugar, a half teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1½ teaspoons of milk. And that's all you need. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. I've had my cream cheese sitting out, getting softened. So let me just clean off my whisk here. I should have done that before. Make sure we got a nice clean whisk so we can mix our stuff. Okay. So we got that. Got our bowl cleaned out all nice. So we're going to go ahead and pop open our package of cream cheese. Just open it from the top. Try to get as much cheese off of the package as possible. It tends to stick really bad. So I just peel both ends back like that. And then just plop it right into your mixer. Alright, then go ahead and toss your box in the wrapper. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and add our sugar, because we need to mix it and get it all nice and fluffy. And we're going to add the butter in there too. So it's going to be the 4th cup of butter and the 1 cup of powdered sugar. So let me go ahead and get my butter. Got my stick, and a 4th cup of butter is half a stick. 2 sticks equals 1 cup. 1 stick is half a cup. So we're going to go ahead and get our 4th cup of butter. And a 4th cup is the same thing as 4 tablespoons when you're talking about butter. And it should be marked on the stick. There's the little notches that you have on there that tells you how many tablespoons. So we'll go ahead and drop this in there too. And then we also need our sugar. 1 cup of powdered sugar. Man, this looks just about as much as 1 cup. My dishes are done finally, so now I can use all my stuff that I put in the dishwasher earlier. Alright, so we got our 1 cup measuring. We're going to go ahead and do a cup of powdered sugar in here. Make sure it's level when you measure it. And depending on how thick or how thin you want your icing, I do mine pretty thick because I don't like it to run off the sides of my bread. Alright, gonna go ahead and add my butter, or my milk and my vanilla extract to it because it's still a little stiff, and my flour, or my confectioner sugar is flying up at me, so I want to get it kind of heavy, get it kind of weighed down with some liquids. So I've got my Tahitian vanilla extract from Lorraine Oils that I'm going to use. I'm just going to put a teaspoon of that in here. Well, a half teaspoon of it. And then after I do that, I'm going to put in my vanilla butter extract, also from Lorraine Oils, to give it kind of a buttery flavor instead of a, confectioner sugary flavor. Half teaspoon of vanilla in. Half teaspoon of butter vanilla. I've been using the crap out of the butter vanilla ever since I got it. It's amazing. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and try to mix this again. There we go, it's a little better now. And I'm going to add the milk, 1½ teaspoons of milk. And like I said earlier, depending on how thick or how thin you want your icing, you add more or less milk. So I want a pretty thick icing. So I'm just going to follow pretty much exactly what the recipe says, 1½ teaspoons. I'm just going to eye it. Alright, that's it. That's all you need. And here again, like I did earlier, I'm going to tap my whisk on the side of my bowl and go ahead and scrape the sides because that icing really likes to stick to the sides of your bowl. So if you scrape it, you can make sure that it all gets mixed so you don't have clumps that aren't flavored that taste like straight cream cheese. And this is also the part where you would be adding your cinnamon and nutmeg and, whatever else you wanted to flavor it with. And add a little bit more milk. So I'm going to grab my cinnamon and nutmeg, which is up here. Oh, actually, I ran out of nutmeg last night. Damn. Cinnamon will work just fine. So I'd say about a teaspoon of cinnamon, maybe teaspoon and a half. Depends on how much you like cinnamon. We're just going to let this mix for a couple minutes so it gets nice and mixed together. Tastes just about right. I think you need to add a little bit more milk to it. It's a little too thick. Plus I have 2 loaves of banana bread to frost, so it needs to stretch for both loaves. Alright. So we got our icing done. That's really good. And that's what it looks like. Just a nice creamy cream cheese frosting with a little bit of cinnamon in it. You can put nutmeg, poppy seeds. You can put anything you want in it to flavor it. But yeah, that's our icing. Okay, so now we're going to frost our loaves. A little spatula just like this will work perfect. We're just going to take the frosting, scoop it out, and just plop it right on top there. And then spread it evenly. Just like that. You want to get a nice even frost over the top. And the trick is to not press your spatula down against the bread, because then you can see it. You can see the bread through the frosting. Just kind of glide over the top of the bread, and it makes a nice, pretty frosted surface. And we're going to go ahead and do that for both of these loaves. And the edges got a little crispy, but I think that's okay because it helps your bread to not fall apart when people are eating it. And don't be too meticulous. I mean, I'm a perfectionist kind of when it comes to frosting things. But, you know, take your time. Try to get a nice thick coat on there. Okay, I'm going to do that. Nice and yummy. I don't know about you guys, but this looks really good. I wish I could eat it. But alas, I cannot eat any of my baked goodies because I am gluten intolerant. So hopefully soon, as I get into it, we'll have some gluten-free recipes and stuff like that for you guys. Alright, there you have it. There's one of the loaves frosted, and that's what it looks like when it's done. So thanks for watching.